What's going on, world? It's DS1 Ross, represent the New Black Alliance. Good morning. Just came here this morning, family, to start my Black History Month series. This is the Black History Month series. This is going to be my first episode. Thanks for everybody that's tuning in, everybody that will tune in. I feel like this series is very important to do because a lot of the youth don't understand who really fought for their freedom, and what sect of activity people fought for their freedom in. And I feel like Black History Month was given to us, so it's controlled by the people who gave it to us. We should celebrate our freedom fighters every day, but we're taught to only celebrate them in February. So what I want to do is I want to redefine certain things for the youth. And I want to let them understand that there's people who really fought for them. And a lot of those people who really fought for them, they're not discussed. So today, family, I'm going to start my series off with a Black woman, with a great Black woman. She's showed greatness. She's proved excellence. So I wanted to start my series off with her. So I'm going to be reading off my notes, family. And the first freedom fighter I want to get into, family, her name is Frances Cress Welsing. Freedom fighter number one, Frances Cress Welsing. So I'm going to just give you guys a little background. And then after I finish reading from my notes, I'm going to expound and put things into my own perspective. Frances Luella Cress was born on March 18th, 1935 in Chicago, Illinois. Her father was a physician. His name was Henry Cress. Her mother was a teacher who was Ida Mae Griffin. In 1957, Frances earned a BS degree from Antioch College, and in 1962, earned an MD from Howard University. In the 1960s, she also worked in several children's hospitals. In 1970, she wrote a series of essays later to be named the ISIS Papers. These series of essays was developed through extensive fieldwork, research, and observation. So right there, family, what I'm expounding on is the early life of Frances Cress Welsing, where she got her education from. As you can see, she got her master's degree from a HBCU, a historically Black university, which is Howard University. That's where she received her master's degree to become the psychiatrist that she is. But it seems like through her extensive fieldwork and research, she realized, certain things. And I believe that's what led her to activism. So let's get into a little bit more. Later on, this was called the Cress theory of color confrontation and racism/white supremacy. What is white supremacy? According to Frances Cress Welsing, slash racism is the local and global power system and dynamic structured and maintained by persons who classify themselves as white. Keyword classify. Who classify themselves as white, whether consciously or subconsciously determined, which consists of patterns of perception, logic, symbol formation, thought, speech, action, and emotional response as conducted simultaneously in all areas of people activity. Now, the 9 areas of people activity will be economics, education, entertainment, law, labor, religion, sex, and war. And these people who classify themselves as white, they set up this system and maintain this system locally and globally for the purpose of white genetic survival and to prevent white genetic annihilation. So I'm gonna stop there, family. Now, basically, the work of Francis Cress Welsing shows and proves that throughout all activities of our life, family, we're going to be dealing and we're going to be faced with racism slash white supremacy. And our children need to understand that. And this is why she's worthy of being part of Black History Month. Because what I learned from her information is that if you don't understand racism and white supremacy and how it works, then everything that you try to do in this world, if there's a barrier there, you will never really understand why. See, we must understand that, or what we must get our youth to understand is that everything in this system is race first. The people who set up and maintain this system that we live in, the system is racist. We're not talking about individuals. See, when we speak about white supremacy, if you listen to the definition, we're dealing with people who classify themselves as white. That's what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with people who classify themselves as white, and they have created a system to basically keep the foot on the necks of the people who classify themselves as non-whites. So, young man or woman, understand that by your classification, you are judged a certain way. You're looked at a certain way. You're not respected. And we must understand that. Should we let these things stop us, kids? No, we shouldn't. We should not. We should continue to progress. We should use this information that this beautiful sister brought us to progress. We shouldn't use it to hold us back. We shouldn't use this information as a crutch, because a lot of us do this, family. A lot of us use white supremacy and racism as a reason why we can't progress, when that's not what this information was put out to the people for. See, this information that she brought to us was to help us progress in life, for us to understand why things are the way they are. Because see, If our youth don't understand how the world works and why it works that way, you will continue to have angry young Black men and women, and they're going to continue to tear up communities. See, a lot of us are tearing up our communities because we don't understand the agenda that's being pushed. And we don't understand who's pushing it and why. And the work of Frances Cress Welsing proves that. She shows and proves in the book, The ISIS Papers. I believe every Black family should have that in their house. Every Black family should have that book in their house. Because that's basically the blueprint to why the system is the way it is. From a psychological aspect. Because see, we must never forget that everything starts with a thought. So these people thought to create this system in order for them to survive. So as long as we continue to feed the system with our thoughts and our ideologies, all predicated around their central idea, which is white supremacy, we're going to always be down. As Black people, we're going to always be down. Because we don't understand the real war. We don't understand the real oppressors of the world. Like I said in the definition, white supremacy is local and global. Local and global. So we must understand that point right then and there. So don't think you can run to Africa and escape white supremacy. You see? Don't think that you can quote unquote run away from America and things are going to be different. White supremacy is global. It's global, family. So to the youth, read these books. Read this book specifically. Learn about Frances Cress Welsing. Learn about Neely Fuller Jr. Because these are the people that really showed and proved that racism really exists on all levels. See, a lot of people came and tried, and a lot of their information got debunked. But see, them two, their information can't be. You have this new age information coming out, and you got a lot of new people saying that Frances Cress Welsing's theory was pseudo. But see, that's the power of white supremacy. They could tell you something is not real and force you to believe it. They could tell you something is pseudo and force you to believe it. Because all they got to do is keep saying it. And being that you look at the white elite to be elite, what happens is that we tend to believe that everything they say is correct. But after reading her book for myself and studying the behavior of people who classify themselves as white, you can see that they're narcissistic. You can see that they're power driven, that they're egotistical, that they're arrogant. You see, you can see that if you do your own field studies, if you do your own observations. And this is what our children need to be doing, family. To understand racism, white supremacy. They need to understand it. If they're going to properly navigate through this system, they must understand the system, because too much of us is not understanding the system, and that's why we're looking like fools in the media. You see? See, it's easy to become what people like to call sellouts. It's easy to become that when you don't understand the opposing side. You don't understand the enemy. You don't understand your oppressor. See, if you don't understand that, then it's easy for you to become a sellout. It's easy for you to say, oh, well, I'm on the right side. I'm doing what's right for me. And we have to save our children from having that perspective. Because once our children develop that thinking, they're going to go out in the world, accumulate what they're going to accumulate, and never come back to the community. See, that's what white supremacist ideologies do. It makes us go out in the world, get things, and never come back to help nobody. Because white supremacists are arrogant. They're for self. They're about dominating. They're about looking to be number one. And a lot of our people, especially the youth, have adopted that mindset that I'm going to take this shit for me. This is for me and only me. And this is why our communities continue to look the way they look, even though we got $1 million athletes and $1 million entertainers. If you go back to those guys' communities or those women communities, it still look like shit. And that's because they weren't taught to go back and help their people. They weren't taught that. See? And they make sure that the schools don't teach our children that. Because then, if they teach us to go back and rebuild our communities, then guess what? Their chances of survival is going to be slim. This is why they must make sure that the black race must stay deaf, dumb, and blind. And this is why they bombard our youth with the dumbed down music. And they only promote artists on big platforms who's telling you to remain dumb, who's telling you to stay high, basically to stay unaware. Don't be aware of the people who's feeding your neighborhood with drugs. Don't understand that. And don't understand why. See, this is the beauty of Frances Cress Welsing, because she answered the question to why racism exists. See, everybody that tried to fight for us want to know, what could we do to be equal? She came along and showed and proved why we will never be equal to these people, and why we need to stop trying, because it's a waste of time. That's the beauty of Frances Cress Welsing, family. She answered the why. You know how when we used to do current events in school? Who, what, when, and why? When you did your current events, that was the hardest question to answer when reading the article, figuring out the why. That's what she figured out. And if you notice, that's what our children like to ask us. But why? But why, mom? But why, dad? Why? She answered the why. And this is why our children need to have that book, the ISIS papers. This is why. You see? So yeah, the system is set up to go against people who classify themselves as non-white. Why? Because if they don't suppress the people who are non-whites, then the white people will cease to exist. The white people who they think matter. This is why I keep specifying the word classify, because there are levels of classification even dealing with white people. You see? It's classifications. And another reason why I keep specifying classify is because you have Spanish people who classify themselves as white. You have Asian people who classify themselves as white. Hence to where you get the situation with the brother who got killed out in Brooklyn, Akai Gurley, when he got killed by the Asian police officer, Peter Liang. Peter Liang is an Asian who classifies himself as white. You see? And he showed their political power because all those Asians rallied around Peter Liang and they forced Ken Thompson, who was a black DA in Brooklyn at that time, but he dropped dead for some reason. But they forced him to make the decision not to send Peter Liang to prison. You see? Because Ken Thompson knew if he didn't make that decision, where his ass would be. But it's just so happened that, the ancestors work in mysterious ways and the man dropped dead somehow. But see, the point I'm trying to make is that that brother don't understand racism, white supremacy, because he put himself in a position to where he had to sell out his people. He had to commit treason on his people to feed his family. And this is why I'm doing this series for the youth, because we don't need to be grooming more coons and bedwitches. This stuff got to stop, family. We got to stop housing them, because these coons and bedwitches come from a family. They're coming out of a household. So we got to understand how we grooming our children. And I'm not telling nobody how to raise their children. Let me make that clear, family. You can raise your child any way you want. Any way you want. I'm not telling you how to raise your child. But what I'm saying is, if you in favor for black power and black love and black unity, then your child need to understand racism, white supremacy from a psychological aspect. Because from the psyche was birthed the system. The system came from the way that these people think. We must teach our youth. The reason why police is shooting us down in the street is because the way we are viewed to these people. You see? Being classified as a non-white to these people are almost like an ant to them. You see? So we can't keep raising coons and bedwenches because that's going to further impede our progress. Because see, when you got black people who has a little position in the system, what they're going to do is they're going to do what they need to do to protect the system. Because if they protect the system protects them. You see? And this is why you have an influx of the cooning and the bedwenching. We have an influx of it because people don't understand the system. They don't understand. And then you got some people who think they could get up in there and change shit. And see, those are the people who take the hardest falls. You see? So what we have to do, family, is we have to expose our children to information that they want to keep from our children. Because when I Googled Frances Cress Welsing, and I just clicked on Wikipedia, they had like 2 sentences about this woman. But they made sure at the bottom, they tried to call her a pseudoscientist. See, I took note of that. You got to take note of certain things like that, family. Because what they're doing now is they're trying to discredit this woman, discredit her work, when a young man or a woman 10 years from now go and try to find out who this woman is, they're going to say, oh, that was pseudo. That wasn't even facts what she was talking about. So white supremacy don't exist. Racism don't exist. That's a thing of the past. You see? So once again, we're going to let these people control our narrative. This is why we have to start buying books, family. And we better start now. Start buying these books now because they're rewriting them. See, I already saw a revised version to the ISIS papers. It's hard to get the original copy. It's hard to get the original copy to Behold a Pale Horse. They're revising these books, family, because they see what time it is. They see that people are waking up. They know that this is the age of Aquarius and this is the information age, and that people are delving into information that they never had before, and that they're starting to question things. The white supremacists know that. They know that. So what they're doing is they starting to revise a lot of these books. And a lot of these other books are being taken off of Amazon. It's being taken off of certain things. So our children stay confused. And this is why we have to create our own black leaders to follow. And this is my reason for doing this series, because in school during Black History Month, they tell you about the same people, but they never talk about a Frances Cress Welsing. Why? Because she's telling you racism is real and how it's real. And white supremacy is another word that could be interchangeable with racism. It's not 2 separate things. We must understand that, family. And we must make our children understand it. This is not a book that they can skip over. They must read this. This is a must read. especially if you're raising teenagers nowadays, because they're the targets. Young black teens. So like when we was young, family, let's start making our children do some more research at home. Even people that you may have information about, let them do a report on it. Go write me a 2-page report about Frances Cress Welsing and what you think her book is about. I made my 11-year-old son do that. And I'm going to make him read the book again. Why? Because my son go to school with a lot of white kids. Am I teaching him to hate white people? No. The book doesn't teach hate. What the book is teaching you is how to be aware of certain things, how to point out certain things when you see it. And my son, he does that. He does that. And that's what we need our youth to be able to do. See, the reason why our youth lacks discernment is because they're not being fed the right raw information. We got to stop playing with our children. Now I'm talking to y'all parents. We got to stop bullshitting our children and let them know how real and serious it is. Don't play with them. Don't make this shit into a fairy tale. We have to let them know how serious it is, why you need to notice. And yes, it's important. Because guess what? Everything about you and your people. You see, family? War starts in the mind. It starts with what you know. If you don't know shit, you don't have no leg to stand on. Because what you fighting for? What is there? Is there really a fight? You see? And this is what our children is conflicted with. You see? But with this book, with this information, it can jumpstart their mind. It can make them start to look at things and say, oh, that's what that is. That's what that means. You see? See, consciousness starts with questioning. See, a lot of people don't understand that. When you a person that question a lot of things, that's a person who's looking for knowledge. And that's what we must turn our children into again, family. We must turn our children into seekers of knowledge. See, our children don't want to seek shit no more. You know what we want to seek now? Who got tickets to go get online and get a new pair of sneakers? We want to seek out who got the cheapest Christian Louboutin shoes. This is what our children are becoming seekers of. But then when they come across a problem, they can't find a solution or they can't find the reason to why there is a problem. And then they don't go and seek out an answer because they're not being taught that anymore, family. And us as being parents must begin to get back on our jobs, because these kids' grandmothers and grandfathers, they didn't raise their mothers and fathers like that. You see? My father grew up and was privy to know about certain things because certain things was instilled in him. We wonder why our youth is the way it is, because we're not instilling information that the sister Frances Cress Welsing left for us. We're not instilling that in our children. We're not instilling it in them. That way, they know which way to go, because they know if they go the other way, what's there and why it's there. You see? We got to stop placing blame and start looking for remedies. And one of the remedies, and one of the most important remedies, is teaching. It's teaching. We talk about this racist educational system, but how many of us are actually ready to teach our children at home? Are we actually ready to teach? Or are we just speaking out of anger? Oh, we need to stop letting these crackers teach our kids. But are you ready to teach them? Are you ready to teach them? Do you see any profit in teaching your children? You see? See, now we got to start questioning ourselves, parents. Yeah, you work 8, 10 hours a day. Would you sacrifice your job to teach your kid at home? Is that profitable? Meaning not you getting monetary gain, but will it profit your child in the long run? And I'm not telling nobody to quit their job to teach their children. But don't keep complaining about the system and you putting your child in the system. And you putting your child in the system because you're a part of it. Because I understand that everybody got to go to work. So if you go to work, how you going to teach your kid at home? You see? So if you're not able to just formally teach your children, have literature around them that they can read and enforce that they read it and enforce that they write essays about it so you can see if they understand it. Because if we don't do this, family, we're going to have more Stephen A. Smiths, more Jerry Rices, more Steve Harveys. We're going to have more Stacey Dashes. We're going to have more Omarosas. We're going to have more Ben Carsons. You see? See, those are people who see reverence in the white supremacist system. They don't see power and reverence in their own people because they don't see it within themselves. You see? They see power and love and all of that through monetary gain. And that's what a lot of our youth is dealing with. They're being plagued by materialism. This is why they killing each other. This is why they robbing each other. This is why they lying and scamming. But materialism is a white supremacist construct because this is how they get our people to sell out. Give them a little nigger trinket. Huh, take this BMW. It's not yours though, it's the company car. But being that you could go back to the projects and drive your company car on the projects, you think you have arrived. That right there shows and proves that they have gotten to your mind. They have gotten to your thought process and how you view success. You see? This is why my picture here is of success is you going up steps. It's levels. It's levels to success. Because yeah, you may have monetary success, but spiritual failure. You see? And this is what the information of the ISIS papers is going to give our children. It's going to give them a foundation. It's going to give them a foundation to build upon. We saying that black people need to be independent, right? Then how do we become independent from thinking like our oppressors when it comes to us dealing with each other? How do we become independent of that? We must teach our youth that. Because a lot of our adults, they're gone and they not coming back. So we got to start with the youth, family. And this is why this woman is very important. And black men must really understand who Frances Cress Welsing is. Because a lot of black men don't see black women who are activists, who advocate for the entire race. See, nowadays you have a lot of feminists, female activists, people who are just pushing the agenda to advocate for women. This was a black woman who advocated for black people. And if you read her book, she really specifies how the white supremacists of the world focus on destroying the black man. And that black men is the target. And we saw that the past few years with all the young black men being murdered by police. We are the targets. And you know why we're the targets, family? Because if you destroy the man of the house, who's the protection, the women and the children are just spoils of war. They automatically take your children and your women. You see? This is why black men in particular, young black men, better know who this woman is. Because too many times, black men are fed empowerment through the eyes of black men. When we don't see too many black women fighting for us. There's plenty of black women fighting for black women. But how many black women are you hearing out here advocating for black men? That's what this woman did, family. And this is why this woman is very important for Black History Month. She should be nominated every year for Black History Month. Every year, family. Because she can help shape and mold our children's perceptions of the world. Do some people agree with it? No. But if you want your children to understand the truth on how the world really works and the mindsets of the people who run this shit, introduce them to Frances Cress Welsing, family. Beautiful sister. Beautiful. We have to honor her. She is the representation of Black excellence. And before I go, family, I'm going to leave y'all with this quote. This quote is by Neely Fuller. And Neely Fuller said, if you don't understand racism, white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. So, meaning, family, no matter how much money you accumulate in society, if you don't understand racism, white supremacy, you'll be like Oprah when she went overseas and tried to go in the Hermes store and they kicked her out. And that's Oprah. See, she didn't understand racism, white supremacy. Or as an entertainer who rap about certain things, why you always got hip hop police following you? Because you don't understand the system of racism, white supremacy. You see? And our children will be confused about everything else if they don't understand it. You see? This is why this woman is important. Because what she set in stone, family, can be revisited forever. But it's us, it's up to us to keep her name living. Because they already done deemed us pseudoscientists. This woman just died last year. She only been dead for a year and a month. She died January 2nd, 2016. And already on Wikipedia, they're talking about she's a pseudoscientist. You see? So we have to continue to push our own narrative to our children, family. Let's start creating past leaders for our children to model themselves after or to admire. Let's stop going with the Board of Education. Let's stop dealing with just Martin and Malcolm, but not deal with Frances Cress Welsing. See, in this Black History series, family, I'm going to be going through a lot of people that made very big impacts that nobody likes to talk about. So I want to thank y'all for tuning in, family. I hope this live stream was very informational. Make sure y'all hit the like. Make sure y'all subscribe if y'all haven't subscribed. And stay tuned. This is just number one, family. I'm going to be doing at least 10 Black freedom fighters for Black History Month. And these 10 Black freedom fighters, a lot of people don't like to speak of. So until next time, family, thanks for tuning in. This is DS1 Ross. I represent the New Black Alliance. And you have just watched Sheep Stay Sleep live stream. Sheep stay sleep, wise ones awoke. Peace.